Have the payment of the claims. We have $652,556.55. All right, Penny.
Nothing like dropping over a $500,000 at the end of the year.
Right.
We had 3 bond payments on that one, so that's a chunk right there.
Had another big one last month, or last meeting as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. There was also our insurance payment to McGriff on there, so that was over $100,000. So.
I read it McGruff every time I look at it too.
It's the crime dog.
I know. It's so close. Is there any questions from the board?
It seemed pretty straightforward. It was just pretty heavy.
Yeah. Yeah, it was on the heavy side.
Yeah.
Any questions from the public? All right, do I have a motion to accept the payment of the claims?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Blight claims, we have none. So we'll move on to the next item. Mr. Kern, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Perfect timing.
Anything to report at this time for the attorney's report?
I know we talked about the police contract last meeting and modifying that. And I believe Mr. Feller is here, or Mr. Pittner.
Yeah, so
They're
they're both
here
here.
to present the 2019 contract, and we went through those changes, and they're fine,
Okay.
pending your approval.
All right, so moving on to communications. The clerk treasurer and I were talking. I think there might have been some clarification due for the last meeting. We spoke about what has been come to be called the RFP, residential RFP program in our office. The city has 2 basic ways of going about blighted properties in the city. There's an avenue which takes advantage of state and federal funding, and it's called the Blight Program. There's funding from a grant associated with that, and process that has to do with partnering with nonprofit, purchasing the property, and then going through a different set of rules and regulations as far as how to treat the property and how to ultimately dispose of it. Outside of the grant program, that's the blight, which like the blight claims, that we didn't have any blight claims tonight. We're part of that grant program. Outside of that, when there's not a grant, in our regular course of city business, we have homes that are distressed homes that the building department will be dealing with, and sometimes these homes are, instead of them getting a demo lien put on the property, because when we demo a property, that property stays the property of the property owner, the original private property owner. So when there's a demo, we don't then own that property, usually. More recently, we have had properties signed over to us so that the owners of the property don't take on an empty lot with a demo lien on it. And when we're talking about the RFP program, I know this is a lot to take in, but there was asked for clarification, so I guess I'm going to, you guys got to sit through a clarification. So more recently, as we're going after properties and trying to get people to fix up properties, and they decide that it's not worth it to put the money into it, but they don't want to get a demo lien put on the property and then to be then having an empty lot with a $10,000 demo lien on top of that, they've said, well, can we just give it to the city so it's out of our hands and you guys do whatever you want with it. So we have a handful of these properties and we'd like to do something with them. We'd like to get them back into the hands of private citizens that have the funds and the will to do something with it, whether it be an empty lot or putting the money that's needed into a property to bring it back up to a livable, safe residence. Doing that in a fair, equitable process is more complicated than what it might sound like at first, and so we're going through the process of coming up with the parameters for such a program. There are programs throughout the United States in different cities that do these type of things, land banks and such as that. But every city has its own set of of rules on exactly how they do this, and that's what we're going through, is the process of coming up with our own Peru rules of how we want to do what is basically, for the lack of a better term, a land bank. And I guess if you guys Google land bank, you might get a more clear definition of what I'm talking about than the last 5 minutes. So if that clears everything up like mud, then we can move on to the next one. Does anybody have any questions? Just thoroughly confused everybody. Is there any questions from the board? Because we talked about having a meeting as a board to go through these rules and come up with a plan. Is the board clear though?
Crystal clear.
All right. I know we've spent more time going through that. But if there's no questions from the public on that, and we will move on to unfinished business. Looks like we have none under unfinished business, so new business. Dolly Bowen, 235 Boulevard, with a request for the city to cut down a tree. And we have some photos that were provided to us. It's Dolly.
There's also a letter in your packet
Okay.
that is
Third page.
third page.
Okay. Let's see. Sorry, I'm reading this letter to myself. I just spent 5 minutes rambling. Do you guys want to hear me for another 5? The board, you guys have a chance to look at the letter too? I know one of the things that's mentioned in the letter is that there's a significant split in the tree. And that splits the tree towards the street and towards the house. Okay. We do have Dave here. Dave, you want to come up here, take a look at some of these photos too, because you guys would be the ones to,
Hi, Dave.
those,
May I say something?
yeah, please.
Since those pictures have been taken, the leaves have been removed from the inside of it.
Mhm.
You can see through it now. I mean, there
Gotcha.
it kind of looks like it's just split a little, but you can actually see through it now.
I know a lot of times with the street department, being able to take down a tree without damaging property is kind of one of the bigger hurdles. I don't know. That's a very large tree.
Yeah, I don't even know. I'd have to go look at it closer myself, but I'm not even sure if a bucket truck could reach the top of that. Check it out and see. It does look like it needs to come down.
Okay. Thank you. Do you know, Dave, how tall the bucket truck is the street has right now for the trees?
It's 60 foot.
60 foot? Okay. So that is kind of a... Does the board have questions for Ms. Gibbs?
What kind of fee would we have,
Sorry.
like time frame? No, he's the new.
Dave.
Yeah, Dave, I'm sorry.
Dave, sorry, I've not met you yet. Like, far as time frame and kind of cost the city would occur by doing something like this? I mean, do you have time frames or?
we'd have to wait till after we get finished with the leaves. Would probably be sometime in January, maybe February before we can get to it. I'm not sure of the cost. I'd have to sit down and do some figuring on it, actually.
Okay.
It'd probably take at least a good day to do it.
Okay. What is a large tree? Have you guys taken trees down that size before?
We've taken large trees down. I'm just not sure of the height, how safe it would be for us trying to drop a limb if they're, significantly higher than our bucket truck would be.
Gotcha.
They have to be roped off,
Mhm.
to drop the limbs. But we can check it out and see.
I know last year we had a similar situation, and once we went down and evaluated the tree, there was a split just like this, but only that part of the tree was dying. So we were able to just cut that off and leave the rest of the tree, so we didn't have as much cost in it. It was a pretty simple fix. It was basically just taking that one branch down. So, I mean, if that's the case, obviously that would be financially smarter for us.
On that, when a tree grows up from the ground like that, splitting right at the bottom, it's almost impossible to just take part of it that low down and leave the other part. Because that's part of the support when the tree splits
Right.
like that, it supports itself.
Did you have any questions, Kristen, or anything?
I don't think so. I have very poor spatial relational skills, so looking at these, I'm like, I don't really know
Yeah.
where it's leaning or anything like that, so I'd kind of want to see it.
Okay. Well, if the street department is saying it's going to be a month or two before they can get something like this on their schedule, do you guys want to table it and go look at it?
Yeah, and I definitely trust his opinion on what needs to happen with it, whether it's safe for the city to be taking it down or we need to look elsewhere.
Okay.
I mean, if the bucket truck's not going to work or if we're going to damage property, then
Yeah.
he's going to know what that is.
I'm kind of two minds about it because on one hand, I think this is one of the more, like, this is a tree that is problematic, but then it's also the size of the tree makes it problematic for the street department. So, I would like to look at it.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Okay. Is there any questions from the public? I think the board's probably leaning towards tabling this until we look at it closer and confirm more with the street department. Is there any questions? Any other questions from the board?
No, I think that makes sense.
Okay. Do I have-
So what exactly is the final answer?
That we're going to take a closer look at it and decide probably at the next Board of Works meeting after we speak more with our street department and get a chance to take a closer look at it for ourselves.
Hate to tell you that we could do it and then our trucks are not capable of getting that high and then we're back to
Yeah.
changing it.
Yeah, and in light of the street department, their schedule, that one way or the other, it wouldn't affect the time frame in which they'd be able to come out because of what their time schedule is right now. So, yes.
One of my concerns, and I understand you have to get to it whenever you can, but if we have a really bad ice storm,
Right.
that concerns me, that, and it's not just property damage, but people damage too.
Right. Yeah.
But, that's one thing that concerns me,
Mm-hmm.
but whenever you can.
Yeah. And we will, let's see, do you know when the next Board of Works meeting is, Tish?
January...
Is it January 2nd?
January 2nd?
It's like Saturday night all over again.
Yes. Okay. Because it was, because the first is on Tuesday, we backed it up a day,
Okay.
so.
All right. So January 2nd, we should have an answer for you folks.
Thank you very
So,
much.
is there any other questions, comment? Do I have a motion to table the tree request?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, next we have Tommy Beatty, the request to hold the annual Little League Parade and have police escort on April 27th, 2019. Chief, are you speaking for?
I am, yes. I was associated with the Girls League. I think we've all seen the Little League Parade
Mhm.
at the time that we've been here. Nothing different. start at 9 o'clock at the depot, running in between the high school and the junior high, where they'll disperse at that point right there. So to my knowledge, and I can ask Chief Hawk as well, I don't think we've ever had an issue there. Great little thing, great thing for the kids. So
Could you remind me, what is the route that they go?
they start at the depot there, and then they just go straight up Broadway underneath the underpass, and then they disperse there between the high school and the junior high, typically on Daniel Street.
Gotcha, okay. All right, is there questions from the board?
When is this?
April 27th?
Oh, I was like, I thought that was in the spring. You guys are really on top of this.
Well, any other questions? Any questions from the public?
Mike, you want to do it the same way we did the Christmas parade? That'd be great. Yeah, EMA was amazing during the Christmas parade. They blocked off all the intersections and allowed police and fire to be free, so.
It did work
Looks like
nice.
it worked out with them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
Thank you, Dave.
Yes, thanks, Dave.
All right, any further question, discussion? Do I have a motion to accept the request for a Little League parade with police escort?
So
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, we have my request, and it's kind of a hairy ball. It's a bit of a mess, but there's do not block signs at the corner of Washington and Broadway, and I do have a couple of sheets I printed off, so I don't know. You guys can look along too. Tish?
Yes.
Would you mind, I have a couple extra sheets if there's anybody in the crowd or
Sure.
the police that want to,
No problem.
you guys want to look? There's some print-offs. The sign is on the small circular island, right next to the black car on Washington Street. And it's kind of helpful too, on the Google Maps.
Right
The
there.
way that the cars are lined up at that stop is how typically cars end up lining up along that road as they stop for the stoplight with one car at the front, one car in front of the island, and then cars starting to back up behind the area there. Steve and I were kind of talking about some of this as the meeting started too. I think one of the issues is as traffic going, say, westbound on Washington, it's waiting for the stoplight. And I do have on there, you can see what 100 foot is, roughly. Cars get backed up significantly back away from the light, aren't able to make the turn when the light turns green, which is a particular hassle for Schneider Electric truck drivers going down Washington. And we did have some discussion of whether they could go towards 19, Y19 and not,
Right.
and I don't know. Todd, did the truck drivers from Schneider, was it you that they had talked to? Did they mention why they were going westbound on Washington instead of east 19?
Recollection might be off, but I could have swore he told me they have a transportation supervisor that doesn't like them going down. If they're headed east on 24, they want them to take the shortest route. So they're headed west on 24, they go 19. If they're headed east, they got to go and cut that mile or whatever off.
Gotcha. So they're being directed they need to go that way.
If they're headed east,
And this is the same transportation director it's saying that because they
I think
mentioned that they didn't want, what's that?
One of the truck drivers is who called me.
Mhm.
I think management there wants them to run as close as they can to their,
Right.
but yeah, I can see his point. If he's clear back if he's not pulling into there, he never makes the light. And then he's blocking it because he didn't make the light.
Mhm.
See, so, and he was worried he was gonna get a ticket for doing that.
Well, I know we were kind of discussing it a little bit up here, and maybe just getting rid of the do not block intersection sign. That way people feel free, and the truck drivers feel free to pull up you might block that, but it'd be better to have people pull up and have the traffic run smoother there. And if you're turning right off of Broadway onto Washington to want to then turn left, you have to wait for that to be unblocked or
Well,
move on.
double yellow anyways right there.
Well, and there's some discussion about, you know, is crossing a double yellow to turn left legal? And I don't know, Mike, because I emailed NDOT and all their benevolence, they did, one of the things they did mention was that it's not illegal to turn left across a double yellow, but I thought that it was. I don't know if you,
I don't know that we stopped people from doing it. My guess would have been that you shouldn't break that double yellow line. You're technically going over a double yellow.
right. And in every other, like, and if there's another street going onto a road with a double yellow, the double yellow actually breaks wherever there's an intersection. So to my mind, it seems like unless there's a break in the double yellow signifying you can cross it, then you can't cross the double yellow.
That's what I've always felt too, correct.
So now the issue with that is, if you look, as I was driving through town today, there are plenty of places where there's double yellow that if you can't turn left to get in there, that significantly chokes off access to some of this.
Post office heading south,
Mm-hmm.
turning into the city hall in the back alley,
Yeah.
heading south.
Well, in all of the plaza. So like if you could see farther south on Broadway here, that would mean that if you're heading south on Broadway, you could not turn left to go into the plaza.
What about even turning into the high school, behind the school, going in behind it?
There's a break there.
There's a break there?
Yeah, there is a break. And most places there is, the only places that I think that it's consistently a problem is where it's close to intersections. And I feel like that's not a fluke, that's probably by design, that they don't want people turning left to enter into businesses that are close to an intersection where it could be backed up. I was thinking before this meeting, too, if this is something, because I know, like, Kristen, we've talked before, big fans of protocol and having a systematic and consistent application of this, we could have a traffic study that would look at this, because I think curb cuts in general are kind of lax right now in the city, and people are making curb cuts that can affect traffic in all kinds of ways that we're not really, fully investigating and looking at the full, repercussions of the different curb cuts going in and out of businesses.
I would say the three worst intersections for the double yellow cross would be Kelly Avenue at McDonald's. That's a nightmare. Miami, Maine at PNC, Washington and Broadway. Those are the three ones that would have to really be looked at.
And would you say the first one was again?
By McDonald's?
Kelly Avenue at McDonald's right there.
Gotcha.
That's all double, and that's something else in the mornings.
Yeah.
Especially if you're trying to paint the road, but it's really, but yeah, it gets pretty crazy down there, but I think LTAP will come and do that for us for now.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that would be great if we could get some technical assistance from LTAP on that, because to me, every time in the morning when I'm driving and it's busy in town, it drives me nuts, and I always think, man, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a more consistent. As far as this one, the sign, the do not block sign here, because like I said, I think we should take a more consistent look at all those places.
Okay.
But are we comfortable with taking, is the do not block drive sign, is that a city sign or?
Yeah, it's got a number on it.
Okay. Are we comfortable as a board to go ahead and take down that sign?
I think that's the problem, honestly. I think that if you could get another 15 cars up, getting ready to turn, we wouldn't have an issue. And then far as Snyder's concerned, turn right. Waste a mile. If you don't want to wait in line, waste a mile.
That's what
I mean,
think, too.
trying to cater to everybody to adjust a whole complete pattern to a business because of, they don't want to turn and go down another mile down the road.
Yeah, I would go right myself, 'cause when I used to drive
Right,
a truck.
eliminate all of that intersection.
And who wants to try to make that turn if somebody's hanging in?
Exactly, because it's not an easy turn no matter what you do, because you got to go way out and around. And it's not safe when a semi is trying to turn out and around, trying to pull in, everybody stops anyway. So it's not necessarily a designed intersection for a semi, but, I mean, I think they could eliminate their problem by turning right and going down a road that nobody travels. But I think that just traffic like what you deal with in the morning, having all of those spaces full, you're going to get 8 or 10 cars through and not just the 2. And I don't honestly think that it's going to affect that business in any way.
Yeah.
I mean, pulling in, I mean, it's like the same scenario at any other intersection. We don't have a do not block in front of these. I mean, every business in town has the same scenario at a traffic light. I mean, if we put a do not block there, we're going to have this all over town.
Right. Yeah. And I think that is the only city sign that says do not block.
There's one at Boulevard, but that's because that's a.
Right, it's a street.
Major road we gotta keep open.
Yeah. I mean, but like outside of there being like actual streets and public access that you can't
Yeah,
block.
there's no other driveway, entrance to
Yeah.
the business.
Chief?
If you're gonna do that traffic study, I know something else we spoke about too was when you're going north on Broadway, if we're thinking about closing that off, remember you spoke about instead of having that right lane being a turn only.
Oh, gotcha, yeah.
The traffic study, maybe see whether or not they think it's feasible or wise to eliminate that so that if we're gonna close off that intersection or that opening, I should say, to JJ's, that you
Right.
continue to go straight so that you can turn right
Yeah.
just beyond it.
As far as the double yellow line, Washington is not, that would be something that we would determine whether that needed to be a double yellow or not.
Right, yeah, it's double all the way down to 19s now.
But if there was a
Well,
break
no.
put into that,
Washington's not double yellow all the way. Well, it is, there's breaks in it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a no passing.
Yeah, it's all no pass, yeah. Because I did notice that there's breaks for,
Yeah, Denver Pike.
yeah, in Hay Avenue, Stevens has one. I don't know if there's one for CVS. I don't know if there's a break in the double yellow for CVS.
Dollar General.
Oh, yeah. the
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant, Dollar General.
There is not.
Right,
There is not.
so to eliminate if it's illegal to cross the double yellow, that could be
Right.
changed and put brakes in front of J&J's and in front of their,
right.
and then just eliminate the do not block and just,
And that might clarify some too, because if we do a break for that second entrance and not for that first entrance closest to Washington, because I mean, if people just left a little bit right there, past
one
that-
spot.
Yeah.
I mean, one car
Instead of
avoid.
that whole, yeah,
That's a lot of spaces. I mean, you just marked it off with 100 foot, you can put a few cars in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, we might be able to clear some of that up with breaks in the double yellow too. But we'll get some input from
Study.
LTAP too. Is there any other comment about just removing the do not block drive sign?
Do you see any issues with that?
Well, and then you drive it every day, so you'll be able to see the results of it. I
Right.
mean, you deal with the same thing every morning, so
Yeah.
see if it actually improves that, sitting through the light 3 times or not.
Right,
I mean, to do your own study to be able to determine whether it's working.
yeah.
Sure.
Chief, do you have any concerns with the removal of that sign?
No, not at all.
Okay. Any other comment from public?
Are you, excuse me, I'm sorry, let me back that up.
Mhm.
So are you saying, if we're gonna, I guess if we're gonna make that a no left turn only, then I would say yes, there's no issues with removing that sign, but I know that there are times, the good drivers, the people that are paying attention, they are pretty aware of the fact to not block those, so if we're not gonna put that no turn left sign up, then I think that we probably need to leave that sign up until then. Does that make sense?
Are you talking about for the left turn only, the right turn only on the Broadway? Because I know we talked about that.
Right, yeah, so if people come off of Broadway, going north, they come off and they make that right-hand turn.
Mhm.
I think if we're not gonna then make it so that they can't turn left, if we're not gonna put a no left turn up there, then we probably need to leave that sign up there because people are gonna continue to block that then. If you take that sign out, people are gonna block that, and then we're gonna have a log jam of cars going around that corner because they're not gonna be able to get there because now people aren't gonna feel like that they have to leave that intersection or those lanes open.
Right, yeah. And that's kind of like what we were talking about
But you can still continue on north on Broadway without that affecting you. So the only ones that would be affected is anybody that's turning right onto Washington. But they could back up however far and still be all the way down to the first entrance of the plaza and not be blocking the actual traffic going through town, correct? Because there's 3 lanes at that point. You can get over to the right to turn into the plaza, and if that had to go all the way to Washington if you wanted to, if it were backed up.
Right, right. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to stop traffic going through town.
Well, it would stop it if you wanted to go down Washington to do some business down Washington.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you have an issue, like you said, can't please everybody, and pretty much anything we do in that intersection is going to stop somebody from doing something.
Right. No matter, yeah, it's just not a really good intersection, and it's highly trafficked, especially during the mornings for school.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest time of the day that it's a problem. I mean, I personally don't drive down in the morning, but I don't ever have an issue throughout the day going down through there, but I'm sure in the morning it definitely is.
Do you want to just leave it as it is till that traffic study comes in, and then
We can do that.
that way we're not,
Do you know how long it'll take to get LTAP?
I don't know, I can call her in the morning.
Okay.
I don't think they're very, in the wintertime, they're not usually very busy.
Okay. And LTAP is a local technical assistant,
Yeah,
or,
yeah. I just know it's at Purdue.
yeah, I think it stands for Local Technical Assistance Program,
That's where they, yeah.
and it's through Purdue University, and they'll do engineering studies, and they'll do that type of stuff for local,
Yeah, traffic studies, yeah.
Yeah.
Tax dollars paid for it, so.
yeah. It's kind of like the Purdue Extension out here,
Yeah.
but for cities and towns.
Chief's got something.
Yeah.
On, Chief Hawk found this on driversed.com.
Oh, nice.
That you cannot make a left-hand turn across two solid lanes.
Yeah, and that's what I thought.
So if that's something that would be enforced, what would we do out here? And at the other place, I mean, that's just one of those things where we're going to, then the police department's going to pull in there. I mean, and that's the state highway.
Oh, the left-hand turn into the parking lot behind
Yeah.
City Hall?
Right.
Yeah.
And we kind of joked about this, but if a state trooper, something seen like a police officer do that, they could write him a ticket for crossing a double yellow, so.
So we should get out there and put a brake on our double yellows?
I don't think we can do it on highway, can we?
Not without
State highway?
IDEM. NDOT, sorry.
Oh, yeah, NDOT's the one.
Yeah, they're going to be in control of that.
I was thinking on 3rd Street. Is 3rd Street, if they turn left to get into the parking lot behind City Hall?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a double right out here.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
the double on
right.
3rd
Oh,
Street.
you can turn in from 3rd Street.
Yeah, because I break that double every time.
Yeah.
Into work.
great.
Remember that can of worm thing?
Yeah, oh, I know. But this is the thing, I think we really should get consistent, because I think it's,
I
you know,
like that, yes.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that, and if it's a can of worms for now, but we get it all nice and figured
Right.
out, I'm fine with that.
yeah, I'd rather us have a consistent rules across the board that are consistent with what they teach in driver's ed and everything else, and kind of swallow that jagged pill and get it figured out
Not
and
give our
fixed.
own officers tickets for
Well,
going
you
to their
just
own
go,
place
just
and
drive up
coming
to
in.
Wabash and pull a U in the middle and come back, and that way you.
Perfect.
There you go. That's what we'll do. So, all right, well, I think what we are thinking now is hold off till LTAP on this one.
Yeah, that.
Yeah, if they think
I don't
it's going to
wanna make a
become an issue
decision
by
on-
pulling it out of there, I mean.
Right. Okay.
We could just switch to one-ways.
No.
Just do roundabouts.
Oh, yeah.
No, thank you. All right. Do I have a motion to table my own request for picking up the do not block signs?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, next, the clerk treasurer to open 2019 street and road alley beds.
There's a lot.
Okay.
Grab your popcorn. First bid is from E&B Paving.
And real quick too, Tish, I will go ahead and let everybody know that we were planning on taking all the bids under advisement tonight and looking over them in detail with our street department. So we'll just be opening them up tonight and awarding at a later date.
We'll accept them as is and to award at a later date.
Yep.
Am I still reading them?
I believe,
I think I
yeah.
have to.
Yeah, because yeah,
Okay.
still need to let everybody know what the bids came in as.
Okay, for EMB paving. It looks like they have all of their certificate of insurance, bid bonds, Form 95. And the one bid that they put here is 2,000 gallons, more or less, tack coat complying with 2018 NDOT standard specifications, furnished and applied on streets, alleys, and other areas as designated at $2.76 a gallon. Did I hand this to you? Could you put it back? Thank you.
And that was, which one? EMB?
For tack coat.
It's item 1.
Second bid, also E&B. This is item number 2, 10,000 tons, more or less, of hot mix asphalt, corresponding with 2018 NDOT standard specifications. They have the HMA base 25.0 type B at $67.13 per ton. They have the HMA intermediate 19.0 millimeters, type B $71.12 per ton, and HMA surface 9.5 millimeter type B $77.40 per ton, with the base oil price at $475 per ton.
Did they bid item 2? Did you say their price?
This is item 2.
Oh, it falls under item 2, sorry.
Yes.
There we go. Sorry, gotcha.
This next bid is from Irving Materials. They are bidding item number 5, 1,000 tons or less, Indiana specifications, Class A, 4, 5, 8, 11, and 12 size gravel, and 2334 sand. On 2324 wash sand, they have $11.60 per ton. The next one is item number 6. 10,000 tons, more or less, Indiana specification Class A limestone, 33, 53, 73, or riprap. For commercial stone, the bid is $8.70 per ton. For 5373 commercial stone, it's $7.60 per ton. Number 4 commercial stone, $10.65 per ton. Number 8 commercial stone, $11.10 per ton. Number 9 commercial stone, $11.50 per ton. Number 12 commercial stone, $10.90 per ton. State riprap, $21.25 per ton. And limestone chips, $6.40 per ton.
From last year.
Last year we didn't do paving.
Maybe the other one. We did paving stone, and I remember going through all that sand, and last year we did oil and all that stuff with the street.
Yeah.
The next bid is from Hanson Aggregates. The bid is for 10,000 tons, more or less, crushed limestone, size 53, $8.65 a ton, size 53, is it CAPP or just CAP? How am I supposed to, do you know?
It's 53, that's what
Okay. So 53 cap, $8.65. Number, size 53, $7.80. Size 73 cap, $8.65. Size 73, $7.80. And riprap, $11.20. Ice grit, $7.20. The next bid is from J.M. Reynolds Oil Company. They are bidding items 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, all the way down to 17. It's just the one on the back. Put that on backwards. Okay, item number 7. On-road diesel fuel, $2.32. Item number 8, off-road diesel fuel, $2.11, or excuse me, 16 cents. Item number 9, 8,000 gallons of 87 octane, $1.71. Item number 10, 2,500 gallons of 87 octane, $1.71. Excuse me, yeah, that's right. Item number 12, 15 W40 motor oil, $8.55 a gallon. Item number 13, fluid H3 ATF, $8.95 a gallon. Item number 14, TD, Ultimate TD fluid, $7.80 a gallon. Item number 15, grease, $3.30 a pound. Spyrex, item number 16, Spyrex, 80W90, $2.57 a pound. And item number 17, DEF, $3.03 a gallon. The next bid is from Gaunt & Sons. This bid is for item number 1, 20,000 gallons, more or less, tack coat, $3.50 per gallon. And item number 2, 10,000 more or less tons hot mix asphalt. The HMA base 25.0 millimeter type B, $68 per ton. HMA intermediate 19.0 millimeter type B, $68 per ton. HMA surface 9.5 millimeter type B, $75.50 per ton. And the last bid is from Series Solution. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Item number 7. They have a firm price and an escalating price with an escalator clause. Number 7 firm is $2.29 for on-road diesel fuel. Number 8 firm price for off-road diesel fuel is $2.41. Item number 7 with an escalator clause for on-road fuel is $2.47. And item number 8 with the escalating clause for off-road fuel is $2.59.
I would have thought the escalator one would have been lower than the firm.
Right.
Item number 9, firm price for 87 octane gasoline, $1.95. Item number 10, firm price for 87 octane top tier, $2.07. Item number 9 with escalating, 87 octane, $1.91. And item number 10, escalating, 87 octane, $2.03.
And that one, the escalator was lower than the firm.
Item 11, 12.
Yeah. The next bid is for items 11 through 17. High temp grease, $4.45 for 120-pound kegs, $4.63 for 35-pound buckets, and $4.98 for 14-ounce tubes. Number 2, for 80W90, $2.12 for 400-pound drum, $2.30 for 120-pound kegs, $2.48 for 35-pound buckets. Item number 3, 85W140, $2.16 for 400-pound drum, $2.34 for 120-pound kegs, $2.55 for 35-pound buckets. 70W90, synthetic gear lube, $3.67 for a 400-pound drum, $3.78 for a 120-pound keg, $3.93 for a 35-pound bucket. Synthetic gear lube, 80W140, $4.23 for a 120-pound keg, and $4.38 for a 35-pound bucket. Item number 12, motor oil, 15W40, $12.30. Item number 13, ATF fluid, $10.73. Item number 14, hydraulic fluid, delivered in 55-gallon drums, $15.80. Number 15, high temp grease, $4.45, delivered in 120-pound kegs. Item number 16, 80W90 gear oil, delivered in 120-pound kegs, $2.30. And item number 17, diesel exhaust fluid, delivered in totes, $2.59.
Is that all the bids then?
And that's it. Pardon me?
Okay.
Yep, that's it.
All right. A lot of different numbers across a lot of different items, so that's why we're going to go ahead and accept those bids pending action by the board and look over those in detail and pick out the lowest bids for each one of those items. Is there any questions from the board?
I was trying to keep up with that. Do we have a bid for every single one of those items?
No.
Okay.
No,
Yeah.
these companies just bid what it is their companies do. So
Yeah.
we have
Okay.
both aggregate and fuels and oils in there, and some of them just don't get bid on.
Yeah, because this is a very all-encompassing bid sheet. So we've got everything from stone to fuel to, the oils and the tack coats and the stone that we'll be putting on roads. So we have such a wide variety, like that, how do you pronounce it? Creus?
Series?
Series?
Serious, yeah.
Sorry. Wow. That's who we usually do the fuel for.
Yeah.
Or that's who we currently do fuel through. And they're just, all the city vehicles are filling up on that.
So are we going to have to find all of these or just?
What we'll do is we'll put them in a spreadsheet per number, and then we'll just look for the lowest bidder.
Yeah, per item.
And
So-
if there isn't a bid on an item, do we still have to seek those or?
Well, no, because we did.
Because,
Have to pay market price.
Yeah, because the thing is, if a company only is bidding on a few of those items, they can't bid on the rest of them.
okay.
So, the companies bid on what they provide.
The rest we would have to, as Mr. Kern said, we would have to pay just fair market price for them with the company that
Whatever
sells
they
it if we need
request.
it.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
so. Any other questions from the board?
No, I'm just glad I'm not the one crunching all those numbers.
Any questions from the public? Any comment? All right, do I have a motion to accept the bids? What's the, how do we phrase that?
Hang on a second.
Yeah,
The pricing for Reynolds oil on the fuels, that $2.16, and then you guys get a 10-cent discount. That's our fuel off of our truck. So actually, your pricing is $2.16 minus 10 cents.
Does it say that in there?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me, you said you're with
Reynolds.
Reynolds?
Yep.
Let me find it really quick. Was that the last one?
Yeah, because we're going to take our price off of our bulk truck and then minus 10 cents, and then that's your price. So you guys get 10
Is
cents.
that the one that's not labeled?
do you remember what item that was?
Yeah, here it is.
It would be items 7 through 10.
So this price
8,
minus
9, and 10, yeah.
8, 9, and 10, so this price is minus,
Yeah, it's
10
minus
cents
the
per
10
gallon.
cents, yep.
And where is that in the bid that you state that?
Do what?
Where at in the bid do you state that?
Should be right underneath the item number.
oh, it is.
Okay, yep.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you for that.
And then the DEF pricing, I sell your DEF to you now in drums. If you guys want to go to totes in bulk, my pricing is $1 less a gallon in the tote than it is in the drum. Because I just quoted it as I'm selling it to you now.
Okay, and that's item number, do you know?
It's the last one.
The last
The blue
one.
def.
That's what I kept seeing, and thinking, some sell it by the case or whatever,
Well,
and then
there's
by
a
the...
shelf life on it. So they're only,
Oh, here we go.
they go through one drum about every 3-4 months. So really going to a tote, you're not going to move it enough to not let it go bad. There is a shelf life on DEF. Your shelf life's 6 to 9 months, depending on dirt, moisture, stuff
Okay.
like that. So
that item number 17, the DEF would be $2.03 in totes instead of
Yes, ma'am.
$3.03?
Yep.
Okay, got it, thank you.
Rob, did you have a question?
Are you going to announce these at next meeting?
Yeah. The winner will be announced at the next, or after they've been accepted and we decide on which one, it will be announced at the meeting before we go into effect, start using these prices. Which it might take one meeting, it might take 2 meetings, depends on when the street
Okay.
department gets a chance to actually look through it and,
Well, they go into effect January 1st, and our first meeting is January 2nd.
Yeah.
So I would say we need to have them awarded by then.
right the second.
Yeah, I know in the past, when they were taking a recommendation, that it was awarded to whatever the lowest bid was, because the bids are, if the bids are accepted, then you're just taking whatever's the lowest of the ones that were accepted.
So it doesn't even have to be done at a meeting.
No, it still needs to be announced at the meeting. Then
Okay.
it's, yeah, the lowest, most reasonable bid. Yeah, because, yeah, just as we've seen, just because someone's the lowest doesn't always make them the most responsible bid or reasonable bid. The asbestos remediation company.
Mhm.
So
No.
January 2nd.
But, yeah, we can notify which ones got, which one, were awarded for each one of the items the next meeting. So, but they will, like you said, probably be in effect before we announce. Any other questions from the public? All right. Do I have a motion to take these bids into consideration?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So motion passes. And next, we have the request to approve the 2019 FOP contract. Mr. Feller, did you want to speak on that? Sure. At all?
I'm actually the last 2 items on here, so I'll try to be brief. For those who are in attendance, we have a larger than normal audience. For those who don't know me, my name's Matt Feller. I work for the Peru Police Department, and I'm here currently representing the Fraternal Order of Police Labor Council Incorporated. And we have been working diligently with the mayor and the city going over our wages and benefits for 2019. I will point out that there are 2 city council members who are here in attendance today. On behalf of the FOP, the Peru Police Department, I thank them for the work that they've done for us going into 2019. There are a lot of great things that are going on in Peru, not just at the police department, but in general. There are a lot of good things going on here. And I think that we are all proud to work here and to serve the citizens of the city of Peru. And quite frankly, from the police department perspective, I cannot think of a single complaint that we would have really about anything. And if there were one, I assure you between the 29 or 30 of us that work there, we can find somebody who will likely have some type of complaint Whether it's a valid complaint or not, I don't know. But we are pleased with everything that is going on at the police department and hope that it continues to go in that direction in 2019. As it relates to our contract, we've been working with Mr. Kern over the course of the last couple of weeks to kind of finalize everything. There really aren't any changes that, of any note from 2018 going into 2019. Other than, if you'll note on the first page as it relates to vacation, in the last meeting we did some clarification, and so that's translating into the 2019 contract, but essentially no changes from what we have done over the course of the last couple of contracts. So we have taken this to our lodge, our local FOP lodge, for approval. The body of our lodge has approved it, and we are ready to move forward with your approval for this contract to go ahead and sign this contract this evening.
And the only differences between this contract this year and last year is we had some clarification on some language. We didn't actually change the actual practice of it. We just clarified language to make sure that we were on the same page. And that was, I can't remember, was that it that was changed in the contract? There was, there was 2 items.
If you look at paragraph 7, there's a change too, and it just clarification in the not workman's comp, but how people are going to be compensated when overtime,
Right.
and when versus their regular rate of pay and comp time.
Yeah. And once again, that was just clarifying what was already intended in the contract, but just making the language more clear.
Right, that they have to work an actual 40 to actually receive overtime.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any questions from the board?
No, I think you've done a good job doing your due diligence, keeping us informed this whole process.
Well, thank
so
you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Matt.
Is there any question or comment from the public? All right, well, seeing none, do I have a motion to accept the 2019 FOP contract?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. All right, and then the next is the request. This is from the Peru Police Department, but this would be a change in the city's.
You are correct. It would actually be a change for the entire city.
Right.
So it is, looking through the audience here, I know that we have representatives, I think, from every department, with the exception of maybe parks.
Right.
So it's important, I think, that the street department, traffic department, fire department, police department are all represented here. What I would point out to you, what we are requesting, do all the members have a copy of the short-term disability policy and plan description in front of them?
I don't, but it's burned into my memory.
I will put it in front of you if you'd like, but I would refer the board members to item 1.5.
It's in your packet.
Oh, it really truly is burned into my memory.
Just know that you do have it.
So at the end of the first sentence in section 1.5, an employee's weekly rate of earnings or base salary from the city, excluding bonuses, overtime pay, commissions, and longevity, as the definition of weekly earnings. And where this really comes into play citywide is that in 2017, when the Board of Works adopted this new policy, if your short-term disability is a result of an off-work or off-duty injury or illness, the employee is paid at a rate of 80% of his or her pay. I'm speaking on behalf of the FOP. So speaking on behalf of the FOP, we have no issue with the fact that the employee will receive 80% of pay. Quite frankly, where we ran into an issue, perhaps this was an oversight on our side by not talking about this a little bit more in depth when this was adopted. I don't know. But where it came to light was we do have a city employee who is currently on short-term disability. He was inadvertently given his longevity as part of his pay. So when the error was discovered, we asked him to write a check back to the city, and I believe that has been done. For his part, it's not a huge chunk of change because he has very little time on the department. So under the current system for longevity, he owes probably 1% of whatever it was that he made back. However, where we see a potential issue are for any of our employees citywide who have been on for any period of time. So for example, at 80%, as it currently stands, you get 80% of your base salary minus excluding the longevity. So you get 80% of your pay, and then if, for example, if you're a 30-year employee at the City of Peru, you're at 15% of your longevity. We take another 15% away. You already have 20% removed off the top for off-duty issues, and then you take another 15% off that. So realistically, you're not making 80%. You're down to 65%. Depending on a variety of factors, years of service, where you are, where you fall within the city, it could be up to 56% is what you would end up taking home. So what we are asking, we are fine with everything else except for one word in that sentence, and we would ask that the city add longevity back in. We're cool with the 18, or we're good with the 80%, essentially removing 20% of the salary. We would just ask that the longevity be included as part of that 80% that you're paid.
Is there any questions? Does the audience understand what we're talking about here? Is it short-term disability if you are injured for a prolonged period of time and you go into a short-term disability, the city will pay an employee 80% of their wages for, I believe, 52 weeks? 50 weeks?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and in the language as it stands now, any extra pay isn't included in the base pay to figure out 80% of what is paid to the employee during their short-term disability. And as Captain Fowler points out, for employees who have been here for a significant amount of years, they have a significant amount of longevity. So if they go into short-term disability, that 80% is more like a, well, it's a higher percentage depending on your longevity, as most city employees get a 0.5% longevity every year. So they've been here for, I don't want to do math live because I don't do math live, but you guys can extrapolate how that might affect an employee of 20 years or.
So this, by adding this, it just keeps the employee at 80% of the rate of pay that they are accustomed to.
Yes.
Right.
So essentially, as it stands, if you were to go on short-term disability for anything not job-related, the city essentially says, okay, as a means of motivating you to perhaps come back to work, we're going to withhold 20% of your pay. But when you have the longevity additionally withheld, it's not just really 20%. Sure. Depending on your years of service, it could be 45%, it could be 55%, something like that, depending on your years of service. And so when you start talking those kind of numbers where you're eliminating, up to pretty close to 50% of somebody's base wage, that hits pretty hard. So all we would ask is just to include longevity in that. We have no issue at all with the removal of the 20% for anything off duty, just provided that 20% that's removed, or I should say the 80% that you make, would also include the longevity that you've earned.
Any questions from the board for Captain Feller?
I think you explained it pretty well. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's the incentive to get back to work then? If you've got somebody that, say, got 25, 30 years on,
Sure.
and then they're making way above a normal officer's wage because of their longevity, what would be the incentive for them to come back? I've just personally experienced a lot of people that get paid 80, 90% of their actual wages.
Sure.
And there's no incentive to come back to work. So for the city, what does it affect?
Right.
Like far as money out of the city, like say, for example, we have that curve of, we have a lot of like officers, like we just had however many, 6, 7 firemen that retired.
Right.
Well, say a year ago before they retired, if we had 6 or 7 of them off work, and they're like, close to the end of my retirement, I'm going to stay off for another, whatever it is, 50-some weeks, what does that do to the city? Just because, I mean, I don't know where the balance is at this point.
Right.
And a bunch of young officers, probably wouldn't be a big deal, but if we've got more.
We're pretty split with both the police and the fire department between officers who are maxing out and officers who are new. There's not a lot in between. Well, there's very few in between. So we have a good chunk that it doesn't affect very much, and a really good chunk that there's just no in between with them.
That, one thing within the short-term disability contract itself, our policy, we are allowed to have a or physician of the city's choosing inspect them as well, just to double check, to make sure things progress in a positive way.
I think the way that it is written is that they have to get a second opinion from the city.
I believe at the request of the city. You can
Gotcha.
require us,
Gotcha.
as city employees, if we are requesting short-term disability, you can request that we go to a physician of the city's choosing to have them provide you with a second opinion as to whether
Confirmation.
the medical opinion that you're getting from
Right.
our physicians
Right.
is legitimate.
Yeah. So I am of two minds on this because, for one, like Steve's alluding to, we have a pretty rich incentive, or we have a pretty rich benefits package when it comes to short-term disability. And then I also see the other half of, an officer, any employee who's used to getting a certain wage, if they go into short-term disability, and they're accumulating bills, they're seeing a significant decrease in their wages. I really, truly am split on this myself.
What I would say is, to answer a couple of questions for you, first off, I think even if you are an older officer, if you're still here beyond your time to be able to retire at 20 years, there's a reason you're still here, typically.
No, I don't doubt that.
You either want to be here, or theoretically, you have nowhere else to go. So you're going to want to try to get back to work, especially what I would implore you, and I can't speak for everybody and I can't speak for other departments, but a number of our employees live paycheck to paycheck. And so for Matt Feller, I can tell you that I am going to get back to work as soon as humanly possible, A, because I get bored sitting at home, and I need something to do, but B, as it relates to me paying my bills every month, I need to get myself back to work.
Right.
And I think that you'll find that among the majority of our officers. But I think as evidenced, we just had to have, we had a rather large fundraiser for one of our officers who suffers from cancer back in November. And there's a reason we had to have that, is because he needs the money to be able to pay his bills every month. When he's
Sure.
not working, he is the sole source of income for his family. And he's down to 80% of his base wage, and obviously right now without any longevity. I can tell you that I talked to him 2 nights ago, and he is itching to get back to work. We have a pretty good idea based on a conversation with him when he'll be back here. He wants to get back to work. He needs to get back to work, probably psychologically, but also so he can pay his bills. So what I would say that there is, by not having that, I think no matter what you do, you're going to have an issue with guys who may be trying to come back to work too soon.
Right. Well, and I just know
But I
personally,
think
I've never
especially when-
had the ability to be off work for something that wasn't work-related, that I got any money.
And as
So
far-
it's hard for me to look at it like, well, you're getting 80%, but then you're also getting your longevity.
Right.
Not, most people that work don't have anything outside of work, unless it's a workman's comp claim, then that's totally different.
You are correct.
But like, if you're out on the weekends and you twist your ankle playing volleyball, you're just out of luck. I mean, you don't get paid anything.
correct.
Zero money. So when we discussed this a year ago, I was even hesitant about that kind of money, because that's just not, to me, not normal for the normal work, for the normal job. So to give it, I thought it was good, but then now it's like, I really don't know that the incentive to get back is as great as you might think.
Virtually every department head that's sitting in here. But as far as I know, we have not had an issue with
Yeah,
that.
and that's what I was asking. I didn't know what effect it has on the city. I don't know those numbers.
For us, from the police department, Chief, you can probably answer this. I think we've only had one guy who has had to go on to this.
Correct.
So I think by process, without outing the guy, I think we can do by a process of elimination, which one of our officers is the only person to take advantage of this so far. And he has a debilitating disease that was potentially life-threatening, so I don't think that he has abused this system
Sure.
at all. So I can speak for the police department,
Right.
knowing that it has not been abused so far.
In abuse or no abuse, though, like to Steve's point, this is a benefit working at the city of Peru
Agreed.
that the vast majority of people do not have.
Well, and here's something that I'm saying, I'm not saying it has been abused, but would this open the door for it to be abused? Because now those guys aren't only getting 80% of their base pay, they're getting a whole lot more money to where they can live off of just that little 20% off. And is that going to like maybe sway them, like, you know what, I normally would be busting my butt to get back, but now I'm just gonna take a little extended vacation?
Well, you have to keep in mind that a physician is supposed to check with them on a regular basis. So if someone's just sitting around doing nothing, then they're not going to be making progress from a physician's standpoint, and that's going to be evident.
And that's where we have that safeguard in place, that if, for example, if we felt like maybe we had an employee who was trying to take advantage of that, I think it would be the chief's obligation and duty to notify the city of Peru that we believe that that's going on. And it would be then that the city of Peru could authorize.
It also puts the chief or the city in an awkward position too of
Determine whether they go back or not.
yeah, to second guess an employee's motives and to second guess, you know, whether or not they're abusing it. I'd rather not be put in a position where I have to determine whether or not an injured or sick employee
And
is
that's
taking
where you would
advantage.
rely on the medical opinion of a doctor.
I just
to do
had,
that.
this is why I'm bringing this up, man. I just had a friend of mine that off work and went back to the doctor and he's like, I'd like to have another couple weeks off. Doctor's like, no problem. Like that physician didn't care. To give him an extra 2 weeks, didn't care. That's where I'm talking, abusing the system, because when he said he did that, I'm like, really? The doctor's just gonna sign off on it? And he goes, yeah. They told me because I'd like to have a few more weeks off. He's like, no problem.
I think there's probably a bigger difference between a couple of weeks and months.
Right.
I'm not familiar with any physicians that would be like, you know.
Oh, he's already been off for 2.5 months.
Okay.
And then he went ahead and took another couple weeks off because it didn't fall into his pay scale where he was gonna go back for holiday pay. He currently goes back tomorrow because of this. So, I mean, he did abuse the system. So that's where I'm saying, and if it wasn't for his pay that he was getting, he would not have done that.
Right. And again, this probably would never have come up had we not had this issue arise where we had to ask one of our officers to write a check back to the city when we essentially had to have a fundraiser for him.
Right.
So that's where we're coming from. That's why we asked for this. Again, I don't know that we've ever had an issue that I'm aware of. The other department heads could speak to that because I don't interact with them on a daily basis, but I can tell you from the police department standpoint, we have not yet had that issue. I don't believe we will have that issue at our place. But if we do, I think that there are still some safeguards that are in place. I get where you're at, that you don't want to be put in that position. But I guess, again, we do have some safeguards built in for the city should that become an issue to try to resolve something like that.
Yeah, and to me, it boils down to, we have a very good benefits package for sick employees, whether it be your insurance, your short-term disability, or anything else associated with healthcare, the clinic. So it's a very rich package. It's a package that I don't think is unparalleled throughout the state as far as if you work for a city. You're going to be very hard-pressed to find a city that's doing more for health insurance than Peru.
I agree.
And so we're here with a decision to make it just that little bit better, or stick with what the way it is in the handbook now. And obviously, every time you make a decision like this, this is money in an employee's pocket, and I don't take that lightly. That affects them, and affects a potentially sick employee who is going through a rough time. But there's also the matter of a good stewardship of taxpayer dollars, and I think there's some concern there with continually enriching an already very rich package of benefits.
Well, I would agree with you on that point, but as it relates, in 2017, when we talked about this, we were getting 100%, no matter whether it was on duty or off.
Mm-hmm.
We've reduced that by 20% already.
Mm-hmm. And before that, it was 60%.
And it could be reduced, to a point where an employee, I have one in mind right now, who has an unavoidable medical issue that may require him to be in that position, who will essentially be taking home 56% of his base salary next year. And he's not a guy who's going to be off for a year. He's a guy who's going to want to get back to work, but he's going to be in a position in which he is only making 56% of what he is accustomed to making once that happens. And I don't know that every employee for the city, I would probably press to you that very few employees in the city of Peru could survive, especially if they are the sole provider for their families, as this officer is, and be able to survive and pay his bills on 56% of his wage. That's what it boils down to.
Right, and it is unfortunate, but then again, every other workplace doesn't have anything like that. So, I mean, having that 56% is way better than most.
I would disagree with you on that. I would disagree with you on that.
I
That
would-
may be the way that it works for unionized jobs, but as it relates to government jobs, that's not typically the way that works.
Well, I can say typically with most cities, if you do have a short-term disability plan, you're paying into it in most other municipalities. And the city approved employees do not pay into an insurance plan.
That's correct.
So it's,
It's budgeted money is essentially what it is.
right. So I'd like to open it up to the public too, if there's any other comments from anyone in the crowd.
Well, the longer you live, you will find that everybody will abuse everything in their time. Anybody give the opportunity, they will do that. I agree with Steve up there. And that's bad. But that's life, guys, that's life. There's always going to be somebody that abuses things.
Yeah. Like I said, I am truly split on this myself. If I look at it from the point of view of a person who has always worked in jobs that I never had a single day paid that I didn't show up for. I've never had any kind of health insurance through any kind of employment I've ever had, and I've gone through personal hardship, going through those instances in my life, not having a city job, and that was the reality I've lived in most of my life. So to come into a situation where, you know, I mean, I benefit from these same, benefits now as the mayor of the city. So, it just, in one instinct, I want to give our employees everything I can and not have a city employee go through a hardship. And then there's the other instinct of the stewardship of city tax dollars, and is this excessive? Brent,
I just want to say, as a taxpayer, but also I worked in human resources and business management for 20 plus years. Short-term disability usually is not something you get just because you sprain your ankle over the weekend and you're off a day or two. You have to be off for a while. It has to be something that you're going to be off work for. Our short-term disability was 60% of your wages. Everybody has a different percentage. But for someone, I worked with the same company in the same industry for 20 plus years. My salary was much higher than the base new starting salary wage. If you would have taken my pay that I earned for working that many years and tried to pay me 60% of a new person's wages, I'd be homeless. That pay, we call it review or pay wage, whatever increase for yearly. The government calls it longevity. You earned that pay. In my opinion, and I'm a taxpayer, in my opinion, you earned that longevity pay. So your percentage that you get for your short-term disability should be based off of the longevity pay that you earned, not off of what the base salary is. That base salary is not your salary. If you're a 20-year veteran in any department, that's your salary. Call it longevity, but that's pay you earned all those years. So if they're going to get short-term disability, if we have the ability to have it checked out by other doctors and have it verified, then that's the percentage should be based off of, their longevity pay, not a base salary that they're not, I don't know who the lady is up there, but
This is Kristen.
she pointed it out. This is the money they're used to getting. That's what their short-term disability should be figured off of.
And that's why longevity is an incentive, is
Right.
stick around and you get to
Right.
that level.
And so I just think, as a taxpayer, I don't know anybody, I'm not related to anybody on any department, so I'm just speaking as a citizen and a boss, that I just think your short-term disability, it's not for, the sniffles, it's not for, some light thing, it's usually for an incident that's going to take you a while to recover. A doctor has to verify it, a doctor has to release you. And if you're going to have the benefit, it needs to be 80% of what that person is making on a regular basis.
And I think you bring up a good point, Brent, in that if it was a private sector job, you wouldn't have longevity. You've been getting the raises throughout the years, and there's no such thing as a base pay as far as without that. And that is something I had not thought of before, that, longevity is kind of our own wonky way of doing, your increased pay as you're going on the years of service.
Right, you've been a loyal employee.
Correct. And then if you look at the statutory definition as it relates to our retirement, base salary is base salary of a first-class patrolman plus longevity. So that gets factored in even as base salary as it relates to our retirement as well.
Oh. Is there anybody else that has anything they'd like to say? I know that the Planning Commission's actually waiting on us to use these chambers for their meeting, and they're already a half hour out for their meeting, and I think we would like to make a decision tonight. Is there any other questions from the board? Any comment? Thank you, Matt.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. If there's no other questions or discussion, anything?
The only thing that if it gets voted that we are going to add longevity, I think it needs to be mandatory that they go to a physician that the city, it's for the city. That way, that would stop people
Right.
from taking advantage of it, because I know for a fact that I could ask my doctor at any point in time, give me an extra 3 weeks, he's not even going to question it, because he's not done anything, he don't care.
Yeah, and I think that is a good,
It's just a security blanket that protects anybody from taking advantage of it. I get
Right.
the fact that you can't live off of a certain amount of money, but if that benefit's going to be there, then these are the rules that you follow.
And kind of going back to what we've talked about even this night, of having consistency, and I don't want to be somebody that says, okay, you have to take a second opinion, but you don't have to take a second opinion. I think
Just
making the
mandate it.
second,
Making it mandatory,
the
long-term.
the city exercises the right for a second opinion, and we add in the longevity. I think when we do those things together, that's pretty fair.
Mayor, may I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, how do we decide who our city contracted doctor is? You're talking about sending RFQs and RFPs out. Also, is it on our dime to pay for that doctor's visit?
Well, these are the same questions we would have had before.
It'd be a professional service, so.
Yeah, with professional services, we don't have to put out for an RFP,
Right, okay.
so.
And at what point do we send them? Do we send them when they're going on to the short-term disability?
Right.
Do we send them when we have
I think,
through,
because the way that it's set up, they have to get a doctor's note, and so to go on the long-term disability, and so at that point, they would have to get the doctor's note from both their chosen doctor and the city's doctor in that first 2-week period when they're using up their own.
That doesn't do anything.
And then
for
the
what-
release date, though, they would have to do something to be able to verify. If this doctor says, well, they've got another month off, this doctor needs to verify that.
Right, that's what I
Right.
was going to say. That doesn't do anything to what he was speaking of, which was near the end,
Right.
trying to squeak in another month or another 2 weeks or something.
Yeah.
Well, I think the parameters for how it would work is spelled out. It's just, it has a, you can or you may or you may not do it, and I think just saying that you have to do it, because most of the parameters for all that is laid out in the actual short-term. So I don't think there should be too many issues that would arise from saying that what was the city may elect to do to the city will do in the short-term disability. We shouldn't have too many differences. Dustin, do you have any?
Personally, I like this. I like it that the city has the option too, because what if we do feel that they're not taking advantage of it, instead of having to waste the money to pay a physician to have a second opinion, I like to have it as an option. Well, he's been off 40 weeks. I mean, I see him out playing basketball on the weekend. It's a different story. I like.
Yeah, the only issue I have is I think it's worth it to have the city pay for a doctor's visit so that we are not electing when and when not to subject an employee to get a second opinion.
If when the first doctor says, yes, you should probably be off for 6 to 8 weeks or something like this, then the second doctor agrees with that. That's when your disability starts and goes on. Now, if you go back to your doctor and he goes, no, you need another 4 weeks off, then you have to see the doctor again because you're going past that
Right.
date. So then that would be the reason to go back to see that second doctor
I like it.
to get it verified.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope this
And I
doesn't
think
even
that's-
ever arise, that
right.
this is an issue, but I personally have seen it done, and
Yeah.
I know the longer you have, the more benefits you have, the easier it is to just be like, you know what, I'm not hurting so bad right now.
I do like the idea that if they are going to be on disability for longer than the original doctor originally thought, due to complications or whatever, at that point, that's when we bring in our doctor.
Well, you need them to
Well,
see
we still need-
first
Well, of
Yeah,
course,
the first
right.
one.
So
But I
they
think
agree
that
on the
if we do that,
But if their doctor says you need to go back to work, we're not going to pay for a second opinion from the city. Is that basically what you're, okay.
Mike, do you have something?
I did, but it was just answered.
Oh, okay.
All right, is there any other, let's start with the board. Is there any other questions of the board? Any other discussion there? Is that adding the second opinion from the city doctor for any time off or additional time off as automatic?
No, I
I
think
didn't-
that covers the city, that does our due diligence to try to reduce any
Right.
kind of playing the system.
Right.
I'm
And
okay with that.
and then adding in the longevity into the base rate of
Sure.
the
Because I do think
short-term disability.
our city employees who have been loyal enough to earn longevity should earn longevity across the board.
Mhm.
That's my opinion. And I think with this,
Right.
what's that called?
Short-term disability?
Safety gap, whatever.
Oh.
Extra level of accountability.
Mhm.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Steve? Is any other comment before we take a vote from the public? All right, do I have a motion to accept the request to amend the City of Peru short-term disability to have longevity included, and also add the language to make the city's second opinion doctor mandatory for any time off? I lost where I was at in that motion.
That
You
makes
got it all
sense
in.
as it is.
Is that?
yeah, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Counselor, makes sense to you?
I think so.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.